Let's talk about awareness. And when you think about it, this is really what you're teaching your clients. When you're teaching them the questions to ask themselves and the idea of asking themselves questions in general and the questions not to ask themselves, you're really teaching them to be aware. You're teaching them to be self-aware. And so it's very important to promote self-awareness to your clients, to get them to be aware of what they're doing. Because when you're gone at the end of the day, and when you're gone because your time with them has run out, in a good way, hopefully, they've gotten what they need from you, then they're left with themselves. And hopefully what they've learned from you during that process is self-awareness. They've learned that really at the end of the day, and pretty much in every moment, they are the ones who are the most influential on themselves. Other people can say things, they can go to seminars, they can read things, they can hear things, they can ask for advice, they can pay for advice, but really it comes down to them. They need to be self-aware. They need to be aware of their sabotage patterns. They need to be aware of their fear of success, their fear of failure. They need to be aware of the questions that are both empowering and hindering them. They need to be aware of what's going on. And when they are aware of what's going on, it's very powerful and positive and productive for them. When they're not aware, then it really stands in the way. Now, as I've said, some of your clients are really not going to be up for this. They're not going to have tremendous insight into themselves. They're going to look at life and success or failure as a series of things that they do. And they're not going to realize the overall picture, how the things that they do are affected by their beliefs and how they can actually change their beliefs and change the degree of success they're having. So not all clients are going to be tuned in and really up for that type of change. But you will find that clients, most of them, are open to self-awareness to a certain degree. And it varies by percentage depending on the client. Your job is not necessarily to measure that percentage, but to realize that clients vary and not everyone's going to be very self-aware. When they are reasonably self-aware, you can inspire this to continue because this is what they're going to take away from the process. The whole idea of being able to run the show by themselves without you. Remember, that's what's going to get you more clients. That's what's going to leave behind the impression that, wow, they came in and made a substantial difference. So your clients are in the driver's seat. A life coach, meaning you, helps them figure out where they are going. And they've got to realize this. They've got to realize that they are in charge. So many times, clients and people in general get the idea that they're not in charge, that life is something that's happening to them through a series of coincidences or a series of things that happen to them or a series of opportunities they've had or a series of opportunities they didn't have. They essentially feel like victims in life. They feel like things have happened to them, things have been thrown on them, thrown at them, and have really caused all this to happen, everything that you walk into when they hire you. But you've got to get them to realize that they are in the driver's seat. They are the creators of their lives. Now, I'm not getting into any religious beliefs here because they may very well have religious beliefs where they believe in a creator and so forth, but they've got to take individual responsibilities. And all major religions talk about this, individual responsibilities. So get them to realize the creative power they have in their lives. And this is going to be very beneficial to them. First of all, it's going to allow them to see that wherever that car of their lives ends up, they drove there. And wherever it didn't go, they didn't go there. Once they realize this, once they get this distinction, they get a lot of power. And they start making decisions that are going to be powerful. Because really, who would choose to go to some place that they didn't want to be? Many times, you're going to walk in to your clients' lives and find them where they don't want to be. Things are not quite going right. Perhaps they don't like the office they have. Perhaps they don't like the way their career's going. Perhaps they don't like the people they're dealing with in their business. Once they realize that they created it, they have a lot of power. They have a lot of flexibility. They have the ability to uncreate it or to recreate it or to change it in some way. But having them understand that they are in the driver's seat helps them figure out where they are going. Suddenly, they're not just passengers in life. Suddenly, the responsibility for where that car is going falls firmly on their shoulders. They are directing everything. And once they realize this, then they're able to make decisions, even after you're gone, that are extremely powerful and actually take them to places that are more exciting, more beneficial, more productive than where they had been going. And they keep doing this. And by doing this repeatedly, they have something called success. Awareness of life events will help people make better decisions. If they are aware of what's going on, if they are aware of the impact they are having on the things around them, they're going to be able to make better decisions. If they, for example, make a decision not to do something, they may not realize the events that transpire as a result of that decision. They may think, well, I just passed on that opportunity and I'm just not going to do that, and that's fine, I'll do the next thing. What actually happened as a result of that was, well, in their opinion, nothing, and that is valid that nothing happened. But what really happened is that the opportunity probably went to someone else. Usually when there's an opportunity, it will go to someone else. Take the example of actors again, for example. Let's go back to Sally. She has an opportunity to do something. Let's say that her career gets to the point where she is successful, but then she starts to doubt herself at a certain level. So she has an opportunity. At this point in her career, scripts are being offered to her, and people are saying, do you want to do this? And because of not wanting to go to the next level, she passes on things, not realizing that every time she passes on things, it goes to someone else, and that someone else is probably having tremendous success. And the events that transpire are a direct result of what Sally did or failed to do. And so having awareness of this helps her realize how these events that are taking place are actually related to her. Again, it puts them in the driver's seat. It makes them aware of what's going on. So, whereas you may not deal with a situation exactly like this, having your clients become aware of what's going on and aware that these events that are happening are not just random occurrences in many cases. They're things that can be affected by them. This awareness gives them the power to start creating new possibilities, to start designing a life rather than just getting by, rather than just living. They start creating a life that actually works for them. And when they do this, they have tremendous power, not just in what they're working on. If Sally is starting to accept these roles and move to the next level, she doesn't have success in only acting. She will probably have success in many other areas of her life because she gets new distinctions. She starts feeling positive about what's going on. And when she does feel positive about what's going on, she starts making more empowered decisions. And the other events that take place have to do with this new awareness. Realize that awareness helps determine what you are doing right and what needs to be fixed and how to grow. So it determines a lot. Awareness helps you determine what you are doing right. Let's take a look at that. There are certain things that people are doing that actually work. And this is a huge part of behaviorism, the body of psychology that was made very popular, mostly in the 1950s, by the behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner, working with rats and other animals, pigeons and so forth. He rewarded them for what they were doing right. And by getting them to keep doing what they're doing right and to take new random actions and rewarding them when one of those random actions happened to be something he wanted them to do, he could actually get pigeons to play ping pong. He could get rats to successfully navigate through a complicated maze. He could get almost any animal to do almost anything because he was just rewarding what was being done right. Even if a pigeon is just being a pigeon, believe it or not, every now and then there's a random movement that the pigeon makes which could be used for volleying a ping pong ball with another pigeon. Isn't that interesting? That a pigeon, just being a pigeon, every now and then will make a move that can contribute to something like that. And the pigeon, even when playing ping pong, even when volleying a ball with another pigeon, is still probably not fully aware of what they're doing. They just know that if they do these things for the nice scientists, they're going to get some food. And that's really all they want in most cases. So realize, bottom line here, realize that your client is probably already doing things that are right, that are productive, that are moving him or her toward the goal they want. They probably just don't realize it because they're not seeing the big picture. For example, with Sally, the actor, she's probably doing some things right. She's probably going to auditions. The things she's not doing right, well, depends, but very possibly believing in herself or going on enough auditions, realizing that it's a numbers game. She's probably failing to do that, at least initially. But some things she's doing right. You need to look for these things, look for the positive, and just like B.F. Skinner with his pigeons and rats and so forth, reward your clients. We're not so much unlike basic creatures that we're immune to this reward system. Reward doesn't have to be food or anything like that. It can just be a hearty pat on the back or a word of encouragement saying you're doing this right, keep doing it, and how about doing these other things too? That can be the way to go. So realize there's something they're going to be doing right, and there's something that needs to be fixed, something they're not doing appropriately, and how to grow, meaning how to make those changes, usually by you rewarding them and then them taking it from there. Your clients need to learn how to give themselves good advice before taking advice from friends and family. Isn't this interesting how we can get caught up in this? We can have a perfectly great idea for a wonderful concept, and we can think that we're going to go somewhere and do something, and then what happens? We start asking for advice. What does our family think about this? What do our friends think about this? Well, if our friends and family never created anything amazing, not to put them down at all, but they never create anything amazing the way we define amazing in our minds, what can happen? They're going to potentially, at least subtly, encourage you to not do it. Why? Well, they don't want to lose you. They don't want you to go to the next level and leave them behind. They don't want you to potentially hurt yourself. They think trying really hard means failure and you're going to mess up somewhere along the line, so they want to save you this trouble, especially parents. They'll want to protect you. And that's okay, and that's normal and natural and fine. But really what you need to do and what your clients need to do is figure it out from themselves. Your clients need to learn how to give themselves good advice before taking advice from friends and family. And as shocking as this may sound, friends and family can hold you back more than your worst enemy, even more than yourself. They can hold you back because they want you to be in a similar situation to them. And that's okay. I remember when I was initially moving to California. I was going to move to California. It was the year 2000, and I told my parents about it, my dad and my stepmom. My dad has since passed away. My dad was very much against it, very much against it. He said, we'll never see you again. Of course, that wasn't true because they're airplanes. I can, of course, see them. And I'd already been living about an 8-hour drive from them anyway, so I didn't see them very often anyway. But when I moved, he thought the distance would cause a greater disconnect. But I still called them every weekend, as I always had, and I still made time to see them. But he was very concerned. In fact, he recommended against it. Had I listened to that advice, I would not have gone to California. I would not have had an office in Beverly Hills in the Roxbury Medical Building, 90210. I would not have worked with celebrities. I would not have become a well-known hypnotherapist. A lot of things wouldn't have happened. I asked myself first what I thought would be the best decision. Sometimes your clients are going to have tremendous intuition, but by asking others, they're going to second-guess themselves. So they need to search themselves first. This is a huge part of awareness that you can teach them. Advice from others can throw them off track, especially in major life decisions, such as the one that I just outlined for you. But so many times, people have great ideas, or sometimes ideas that may not work out, but will at least teach them that they can take chances, that they can take risk. And really, risk is what it's all about. You must constantly and consistently be up for risk. A series of risks is what a powerful, passionate, successful life is all about. A series of safe choices is what an average life is all about. That's what you not reaching your dreams is all about. That's what your client not going any further than they would have gone without you is all about. Not taking risk. So advice from others can throw them off track, especially in major life decisions. And that's going to happen time and time again. Now, it's not always the case. You shouldn't always be looking for that. You shouldn't always walk into a situation with a client and say, all right, who's giving you bad advice? What do your parents say about this? What do your friends say about this? I know they're saying negative things. Let me hear the conversation. Put them on speakerphone. Let me hear what they're saying. So don't just go in there assuming that that's what's going on. But you need to listen for that. And many times it'll be very clear. They'll have an idea, but they'll run it by a good trusted friend. The good trusted friend who isn't any more successful than them will say, oh, that'll never work. That'll never happen. I want to tell you that a lot of the wonderful things that have happened for me in business have happened as a result of things happening despite me wanting to hold back. Because at this point, there are so many people involved in my success that I don't always have 100% say-so. Through legal contracts, people have the rights to make some decisions for me, believe it or not, some business decisions for me that I don't always have the rights to fully step in and say, hey, we shouldn't do that. Thank goodness that's the case, because the people on board that I'm talking about know a lot more than I do about business. I'm not really a business person. I'm more of a hypnotherapist and a person who wants to help people. I know how to help people. So I'm not a tremendous business person. That's really not my area in which to shine. But thank goodness that these contracts are in place so that I won't work against myself. Because if I had it my way in many of these key clutch decisions, I would have said, no way, this won't work. This doesn't make any sense. But guess what? It happened anyway. It did work, and it did make sense. Sometimes friends will advise you against things that will throw you off track. Because I'll talk to other people about this. I'll say, hey, they want to do this. You think this will work? And they'll say no, because they don't have any success of their own in that. But sure enough, my business partners will make it happen because they know what's right to do in business. So realize that advice can work against your clients, especially in major decisions, because they're afraid and they really don't know any better. The more self-aware someone is, the more they can predict outcomes. Think about that. Your whole goal here is to get your clients to be self-aware, get them to be aware of what's going on. And the more of this they have, the more self-awareness they have, the more they can predict outcomes. It doesn't mean they're going to suddenly have a crystal ball where they can see everything that's going to happen in every single situation. But they can at least open their mind to predicting the outcome that, yeah, this may very well work out, despite the fact that I don't fully believe in it, because I have no experience with this, it may very well work out. And that's really what's happened with me. I'm self-aware enough to know what I don't know. And that can be a very powerful tool, knowing what you don't know. Knowing that there's an area of your life, something that has to do with your business that you really don't know. So, they say you don't know what you don't know, and that's fine. But you should at least have that area defined. You should know the don't know area. And you should know that that area, when turned over to experts, can actually produce tremendous fruit if you'll just step out of the way. So in this scenario that I'm creating, this is just one of the areas that it can help. Self-awareness. I know myself. I know that I'm not totally tuned in to the business world, and that's okay. I'm self-aware about that. My self-awareness doesn't include going to get an MBA in school, although I thought about that. It doesn't have to include that because there are experts who will handle it. I'm self-aware enough to know myself and to know my limitations Therefore, I can predict outcomes. The outcome is that if I turn it over to someone who does know what they're doing, it will work out fine. I'm able to predict that. In most cases, I'm right. And that doesn't mean that I have to know anything about advanced marketing or anything like that at all, because I'm self-aware. So the self-awareness is going to manifest itself in a number of different ways for your clients, depending on who your client is and depending on the situation. It's also going to kick in your own life. You're going to find that your own self-awareness, as it improves, is going to allow you to predict outcomes. You're going to at least start seeing possibilities of things working and not looking at things as if, oh, that's going to fail and that's not going to work. And you're also going to get the right people on the bus, as they say, get the right people working for you, and your clients are going to be able to do this as well. As homework, I want you to have your clients make a list of their strengths and weaknesses. Now, I realize you may not have any clients yet. As you go through this program, you may be waiting until you get through the entire program before you even start getting clients, and that's fine if you want to do that. That's absolutely fine. It's also fine if you want to start getting clients. It's also fine, third option, if you want to start working with friends. Now, when you work with friends, realize that, first of all, you shouldn't be charging them because they're friends. You don't want to start a business relationship with friends. I strongly encourage you to avoid that because friends, you want to keep them as friends. When you get into things like this, I suggest you look outside of your friend group for money-making opportunities. That's my advice. Take it or leave it. But when you're doing your homework, it's fine to look within your friend group. Why? Because first of all, you're not charging them. Second of all, there's no expectation of you producing any results because, as the Bible says, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country, among his own people. Meaning that people who know you aren't really going to say, oh, he's suddenly the life coach or she's suddenly the life coach. Let's respect him or her now. They're just going to know you as you, and that's okay. Your friends are always going to know who you are, and they're going to have this feeling about you that you are who you are. You know how your parents always look at you as the child and so forth. So moving beyond your friend group for customers is always a great way to go. But working within your friend group for homework is great too. Just don't charge them. But for your homework, I want to have you to have your clients, or if you don't have any, have your friends make a list of their strengths and weaknesses. And when they do that, they should be very honest about that. List their strengths, list their weaknesses. And when they do this list with an open mind and honesty, they're going to have two different columns. Things they're good at and things that they could use some improvement at. And realize that you should share with them that it's not a judgment call. It's not as if you're going to say, oh, well, you're terrible at that and that's the way it is and isn't that unfortunate. You want them to be as honest as possible because you want them to be able to get something from it. Although you're not charging them for it and there's not an expectation that they will necessarily gain anything from working with you because they're just friends, have them do this. Now with clients, of course, it's different. You will be getting results for them. You are promising at least to put your best foot forward and strive toward results. So, realize that items can include skills and aspects of life, such as career. So, it doesn't have to be necessarily something that's a skill. It can be the fact that they are a CEO. That's a strength. Somehow they got to be a CEO. That is a strength. There are a lot of other strengths that contribute to that, but if they want to, they can put that in their strengths column. What we're mainly looking for is something a little deeper, which would be the things that contribute to that. The skills, the things about themselves, the way they are, attributes they have, motivated, confident, creative, etc., that contribute to those bigger picture items, like having a career and being successful and being well known and so forth. Those are things that you're really looking for. Those are the essence. But on the weaknesses side, you want them to look at the weaknesses, to take an honest look at the weaknesses. And these should be things such as runs late, or if you want them to get deeper, be things such as doubts self or self-sabotaging. I would be surprised if many of your clients came up with that because that is a very insightful concept. Hopefully, eventually, if you work with your client for a while and you have them write this list again, they'll realize that they used to be self-sabotaging. Their weakness wasn't necessarily running late or failing to watch the clock. Their weakness actually was that they were doing that on purpose. It was deeper than that. They were sabotaging themselves. They were standing in their own way, standing between themselves and success. But don't expect a whole lot initially when you start working with clients. Expect them to be pretty light on their weaknesses and pretty heavy on their strengths, because they're going to want to look good. But if you can get them to put aside that idea of looking good, you can get a lot further. If you can get them to be comfortable with looking weak or looking ineffective or looking like they don't have everything together, if you can get them comfortable with those concepts, you can get a lot better answers. The better the answers, meaning the more honest the answers, the more honest of a picture they're going to have for themselves. And the idea of all of this is so that they have something to look at, and so you have somewhere to go. You're going to look at those weaknesses, and you're going to see how you can help them improve upon those and get fewer things in the weakness column. Now, maybe they'll never change. Possibly. Possibly they won't change. I shouldn't say never, but possibly they won't change during the time that you're working with them. That's okay if they don't. At least they understand the monsters, if you will. They understand what they're working with, and so do you. So you can work around it, and you can focus on their strengths. Some items can be a strength and a weakness. Maybe they're overbearing. Maybe they bulldoze their way and steamroll their way through everything. Sometimes it works great because they get their way, they get things done. Sometimes they make everyone so mad that the deal falls right through. For me personally, although I wouldn't categorize it that strongly, for me personally, this tends to be a strength and a weakness. I expect things to be done as soon as possible. And for me, it's difficult to comprehend delays. If something can be done, it should be done so we can get on to the next thing. I realize now that not everyone thinks that way. Not everyone works that way. Some people like to prioritize things, and some people like to put things on a to-do list and get to them, or some people like to put things off for a little while and then get to them, and that still works out. It took me a while to realize this. When I get an email, someone requesting something of me, I do it right away. I will usually shoot back an email the next second after I get that email with either a plan for how I'm going to do it, or I will have already resolved it. Whatever they want, I will have provided the information. If they need some sort of information, I will have given it to them. And I used to expect everyone to do it the same way. It has been, for me, both a strength and a weakness. Strength, in that it's helped me get things done, this immediate response idea that I have. Weakness, in the sense that it's made some people kind of angry, because I will expect it from them. What happens is, or used to happen more often, is that I will write back to them and I'll say, when will this be done? And they will say, what do you mean, when will it be done? You just emailed me 5 minutes ago. It will be done in a reasonable amount of time. That's when it will be done, because I didn't understand the concept that some people like to take a little longer doing things. So for me, it was a strength and a weakness. Made some people mad, and it got a lot of things done. So realize that some things are going to be in both categories. If that's the case, then clearly you have your work cut out for you. You need to tone it down a little bit where it's not working, where they're just beating their heads against a wall, because that's what I was doing, dealing with people who aren't going to change and imposing my view on them. This is the way it should be done. No, that's not really the way it should be done. That's the way I thought it should be done. So if they're beating their heads against a wall in one column of the same attribute, and it's helping them in the other column, help them realize that they can go a little heavier where it's helping them and a little lighter where it's not helping them. And this is going to be of tremendous value to them, not just in this project that they may be working on right now, but in everything that they do from that point forward.